Can you guys see my screen?
I can see it. I'm guessing everybody else can see it if I'm saying it.
Okay, awesome.
Yes,
Well,
it's visible.
Sydney, I just want to thank you again for coming by. I know that was a little bit of a freak out this morning. What are you covering? Oh my God, I'm giving a dissertation on appraisals today. I'm not gonna do. I
yeah.
can't do it.
Ed tried to set me up, and I was like, Ed, I'm not doing that. He's like, come
Yeah.
on, man. Like,
It's
all right,
all
I'll
it's
do
all good. Anytime that you're on and any kind of knowledge that you share, it's just always been such a wealth of knowledge. I mean, shoot, we've been doing this 8, 9 years or so. Been going back and forth
yeah.
doing classes at KW.
Yeah.
So I
I remember.
yeah, just remember back in the Hillcrest days, like all the way back.
Yes, exactly. I
So
remember.
I just am so thankful to having our partnership and our friendship and you being here for us all these years and delivering for us. You're just such a wealth of knowledge, man. Anytime I have any kind of questions, like you're my first dial about appraisals and just the way that the market is shifting, man. I mean, if there's anybody that's gonna know it, it's this guy right here. So, Sydney, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for being here and sharing your knowledge with us. Um, love to ask you some more questions as we go along. And dude, I'll let you take it
Yeah,
from
I'll
here.
let you kind of, if you guys have a question, just ask it. You don't have to wait to the end. It won't throw me off. I just want the flow to just kind of go. Um, Happy Monday, everyone. This is a really awesome week. My daughter turns 8 on Friday.
Woohoo.
So if you guys want to send gift cards, more than
Nice.
welcome. I'll accept all of them. Um,
Make sure that
so
to Legoland though. Make sure that all to Legoland.
please don't do that to me. But yeah, before we started recording this conversation, and we were talking about the market, the shift in the market, property sitting on kind of sitting more than 30 days, 60 days. It seems like that's kind of the norm. There's a lot going on. We're going to talk about the NAR settlement a little bit as well. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. It says Ask the Appraiser. A couple of things I want to cover today. How to navigate rebuttal process. It seems like um, like I can't say that we're getting too many rebuttals, but I'm hearing rebuttals like properties are coming in low. Um, and I think that's indicative to how are you identifying how are you going into trends? Like how are you placing your listing on the market? How far back are you looking at comps? How far out are you going looking at comps? Are you going over a mile because you know it's going to boost up yet that listing price? Are you allowing the sellers to dictate the conversation and you're not having the tough conversations in regards to, hey, here's where the sales are, here's where the trends are, here's what's happening in the neighborhood. Other homes are sitting. I've talked to other agents in the neighborhood that have listings for sale, and here's what they're saying. We had 0 offers and it's been 3 weeks. Like, why is that? So, are those kind of conversations really happening? I think it's important to set expectation, not only for your clients that are selling their property, but for your buyers who are purchasing the property, like what's really happening. So I really want to kind of get into that. I do a lot of trust appraisals, divorce appraisals. I think understanding capital gains, I don't know what it is, but a lot of people are going through divorce right now, and a lot of people are inheriting properties and what that means to them in regards to, their inheritance. And then when they put that in the market with you guys, what are they trying to achieve? Obviously, they don't want to pay Uncle Sam more than they need to, but those are things that I think are worth understanding.
I literally just
Appraising.
had this conversation with my daughter's preschool teacher and her husband
Okay.
just this week, and they're talking about planning on the inheritance of their mom's property that she bought back in the early 90s for like 50, 60,000 worth over 1 million now,
Uh-huh.
and they're freaking out because they're gonna have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxes. And I was just, making sure that none of their names are on title. They're gonna get that step up in basis. I mean, that's so
Yeah,
important
you should
for,
you should you should have them give me a call. But yeah, we can work that out with them. They typically won't have to pay hundreds of thousands in taxes. I mean,
right.
depends what they plan on doing, but we can definitely get into that.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, we can bring up their scenario if you'd like, real time conversation. Appraising multifamily. I think everyone has a disconnect when it comes to multifamily. What does zoning means and things like that. So let's get into that. And of course, the NAR settlement. I think, you know, my wife is a realtor, and it's like it's so many properties. I don't think people were ready for the change. And so there was these times where, homes were sitting because how do you show you the property? Do you have the proper, are you inputting the commissions into the MLS after the sale? Are you putting it in the concessions? So I'm seeing a lot of that right now. So yeah, there's a couple of things we want to cover. If you guys have questions, I don't know how Ed is doing it. Put it in the chat. I'm not seeing the chat. Ed, you can just ask me, hey, Sydney, I have a question about that, and
Anybody
we'll
can just
cover it.
unmute themselves. This is an open forum. Like, let's just
Oh,
have a
perfect. That's
conversation
even
about
better.
this kind of stuff.
That's even better. Okay, so rebuttals. Know this. So I like to start with the basics. When you're rebutting a property, obviously, I don't know if there's new agents, seasoned agents. There's also something called Tidewater. So Tidewater is a VA term, which means essentially like the VA appraiser is not finding any supportive data that's going to basically your appraisal is coming in low. Let's just cut to the chase. So they call that Tidewater on the VA level. Rebuttal is when you're arguing the appraisal or you're wanting to determine a different value than what was provided by the appraiser. So one thing you guys have to understand is appraisal guidelines. And so when it comes to size, the max on size, the max is 20%. And what that means is if you have a 2,000 square foot property, the comps that we're looking for are anywhere between 1,600 square feet and 2,400 square feet. That's it. Now, I always say meet the appraiser at the property because, if your property is 1,599, your comp, it's not going to populate. Like I don't have all day to look at 50 comps. And so whatever comes up within that 20%, if it's 2,401, just 1 square feet off of, but it's sold in a neighborhood, I'm not going to see that. Right. So if you're privy to that information, like, hey, Sydney, I know this is literally like 20.5% over the guideline, but it closed, across the street. I won't see that because I'm only maxed out at 20%. Now, for condos, we go typically a little bit smaller, 10 to 15%, because condos are typically smaller. I like to start out at 15% because I just want to know, well, what's really happening that's a little bit more acute to my property, but then I can max out at 20 if I need to. When it comes to distance, I have 1 mile and there's an asterisk, and then you have subdivision. So 1 mile, if you guys are in Mission Hills, or let's say if you're in Normal Heights, 1 mile you can be in Kensington, you can be in University Heights, so you can be in North Park. So when I say 1 mile, please caveat that with stay within that subdivision, right? If you're in Talmadge, 1 mile you can be in El Cerrito, you can be in College area, you can be in Kensington. So you really want to stay tight first before you start to go push the distance in regards to where your comp's at. Months back, we can go up to 6 months. Now, I hope no one is really going back April for comps, right? I mean, it's a bit ridiculous. It's not going to be indicative of what the market is today. And I say stay within 60 days. And the reason why is when you're going for a listing appointment, 60 days is a really good number because it might take you 30 days to get this property what we call like market ready. Let's say you have to get it cleaned out, you got to get your photos done, all those kind of things to get it market ready. So if you're looking for comps within 60 days, it takes you 30 days to get the property back on the market, the way you want it. Maybe it takes you 15 days. Now where that comp is 75 days old. And then you put it on the market and it takes you 30 days to get it into escrow. Now that comp is 105 days or even 4 months old, 120 days, right? I know I'm throwing a lot of days at you. The purpose of that is then the appraiser comes out within that 17-day contingency period, right? So if you're looking at comps that are 4 months old, by the time that I come out or one of my peers comes out, that's over 6 months. I'm not even looking at that as a comp. And then you were really putting all your eggs in a basket for that comp that, well, so only sold 4 months ago. The appraiser guidelines is 6 months. Yeah. By the time I come out, that's no longer relevant. So if you stay within 60, maybe up to 90 days, by the time I come out, that comp is only 5 months old, even though I might find new trends or new comps within now 60 days. So when I say set expectation for your clients, super important to go, hey, look, we're looking at these comps right now, but if you look at the trends, maybe the market is stable, maybe it's coming down, maybe it's coming down, at 1% a month. Well, the trend by the time you put it into contract is going to be a little bit lower. So you're setting expectation for the sellers and going, hey, this is what it is right now, but this is where we're anticipating it to be in 4 months from now, right? When we get this thing, when that comp is now 4 months old. So it's really important to know how to utilize the MLS and look at trends. It's not quite difficult if you kind of just stay objective. If you remain objective and saying here's what the data is showing, and you're not getting too emotional about, oh my God, if it sells for this, my commission is going to be here. Like, you really have to remove your emotion out of it and just look at it like, hey, this is what's going on. This is where it's probably going to end up. Here's what the appraiser is going to look at for comps. Here's how they're going to determine the adjustment factors. And we can maybe go through that at the end, how, if I pulled up my MLS, how I would go about looking at these trends. I mean, maybe if you guys want to do that now, we can do
I
it as
think that'd
well.
be
But
tremendously helpful for everybody on the call. Absolutely.
all
Let me
right, let
ask
me
you
just,
something. I know Fannie Mae is coming up with some new guidelines for rebuttals. Have you been reading up on that?
no.
No. All right.
What are the guidelines?
Well, they're allowing for clients now to initiate rebuttals on appraisals, which is really wonky. I've got an entire class that,
When you say clients, you mean borrowers?
yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Borrowers are now able to go ahead and initiate that instead of a lender. So,
Well, because, and here's what I mean by that. I don't, everyone's on buyer, clients are savvy, one, okay, but they're also like, they don't have access to MLS, so they're looking at the Zillows and they're getting excited and like, well, and they just don't, like I said, it's really up to the agent to educate their clients because they don't know. It's they have access to the Redfins and MLSs, and they're putting their own numbers together, and they're saying, "Oh well, the house down the street sold for this, and they're 200 square feet smaller, and price per square foot is at $1,000 square foot, so that's a $200,000 adjustment." It's like, well, no, it's not a $200,000 adjustment, but that's how they see it. So you have to be able to make them understand the appraisers only for adjustment towards square footage. The appraiser is really only looking at that at 15-20% of the entire pie. So, because we have to factor in location, bedroom, bathroom count, condition, quality of construction, amenities, all of those things are part of the price per square foot. Price per square foot is not solely on the house, right? And so there's about 18 to 20 different units of comparison that are factored into price per square foot. So once you have those tough conversations and you kind of walk them off the ledge, they're probably less inclined to go, oh, let's put in a rebuttal based on what. So when, like, this next page here, like, what's your angle? Because I get these calls from agents all the time. Hey, Sidney, like, I want to do a rebuttal. I'm like, okay, like, based on what? Because you simply don't like the price? Like, is it based on, when you looked at the report, is it based on what the location, you feel like your superior location? Was it the amenities? Do you have an ADU, pool, tennis court? Was it zoning? Like, are there unique features? Like, what are those things? Like, what's your angle to attack this appraisal? So if you don't first know appraiser guidelines and you're given, and I receive rebuttals from clients, and the comps are like 1,000 square feet off, and I'm like, why would I? What am I doing here? If you give me five and the first one is 1,000 square feet larger, the other four I'm going to assume are the same, and I'm like, I'm going to save myself the time, and I'm just going to say, yeah, these comps aren't credible. So if you lead off with one, meeting the appraiser and getting a feel of like, okay, what is their methodologies, like, are we, because I do everything on my phone, so I can look at the comps you give me and go, okay, yeah, we have the same stuff, so we're on the same page. And I've also looked at comps that agents gave me. I go, this is like 3.5 miles out. Like, oh yeah, but it's the same house. I'm like, yeah, but it's in a different market. 3.5 miles is a long way to go get a comp. unless it's very specific. It's a very unique property and I'm looking for very unique homes, and I can go as far wide as I need to. I can go out 30 miles if I wanted to, right? So, that's not to give you that information. It's not to arm you and go, oh, Sydney said I can go 30 miles out for a comp. There's reasons why I would do that. Let's say if I'm appraising a property that's waterfront, or is on the bluff. I'm looking for only homes on the bluff. So I may go to, you know, down in OB, Sunset Cliffs. I may go to clear up north to Encinitas, or Bird Rock or something like that. And then I'm looking at what's the difference between a home on the bluff versus a home that has sand frontage. So I'm utilizing those comps in 20 miles out, but I'm bringing it back to saying, okay, here's the difference between market A, market B. I'm looking for adjustment factors. I'm not looking to use a comp in Encinitas. I'm just saying a comp in Encinitas on the bluff versus sand frontage could be treated the same way as a home in Carlsbad with sand frontage, or a home in, PB, or a home in La Jolla. I'm just looking at how am I going to make sense of the adjustment factor that I'm utilizing in my market, but I can cross-reference that with other markets. If this is very confusing for you guys, perfect, hire me. All right. No, I'm just saying these are the methodologies that I'm thinking about when I'm looking at comps. I'm looking at my adjustments. I do this every day. So for me, it's kind of a normal thing. I don't expect agents to do that every day because you guys are great at marketing properties that people want to purchase. But these are things that you may have to think about when you have comps that are not so cookie cutter, right? They're not in a tract development where every third house is the same. So these are kind of things that you have to, start to think about when you're doing a rebuttal, or per se, when you're putting together a listing agreement and you're having these long, deranged conversations with your sellers. Like, hey, let's talk about this stuff now. So no one is surprised in the ninth inning and going, hold on, what? I didn't know that. You're prepping them for success. You're saying, hey, remember we had this conversation about what the appraiser, how they're going to look at the location, how they're going to factor in the adjustments for size. Remember, they're not giving you 100% on price per square foot. Remember, it's only about 15 to 20. So yes, we do see these sales, but here's what it's going to look like when they, make the adjustment. So unfortunately, we have to be multifaceted professionals in this business, because the more savvy your clients get, the more they're going to expect from you guys, and they're going to expect from me, right? So that's what we're talking about. I'm going to jump into, before I get into trust appraisal, I'm just going to jump into the MLS. Can you guys see my page, Ed? Can you see this?
Yep.
Okay. So here's a way that I'm looking at 6 months out. I'm in 92103. There's 73 sales. Okay. Everyone's MLS should look somewhat the same, but I'm going to go into the neighborhood here. I'm going to show you, here's what I'll do here. And here's 92103. So what I'm looking at 92103, sold prices, here's like low, high, and then there's average and median. So I'm paying attention to median sales. Okay. So in the last 6 months, the median sales in all 92103 is 1.775. Great. It's only great if maybe you're in Hillcrest, but if you're in Mission Hills, maybe not so great. So I'll go in here and I'll put Mission Hills. Okay, there's 45 sales. So obviously there were 73. Now we're down to 45, which is going to be a little bit different. See how it jumps to 1.9. So when I'm looking at now, if I'm like, okay, my property is in Mission Hills, I'm looking at a completely set of different numbers. The median price is what appraisers are paying attention to. So in the last 6 months, the median price has been 1.9. So as appraisers, what we're doing, we're going out 12 months because the lenders want 12 months trends. Then we're going 6 months trends because our comps are 6 months out. And then I might go quarter. Okay, what happened in the last 3 months? So we have 1.9, right? So let me go 3 months out from today, 1.9. We'll go back to July. See how it dropped to 1.752? So when I'm telling you guys about, go out 60 days for sales, if you're going out 4 months, you're probably already higher than the market. So 6 months ago, the market median was 1.9. 3 months ago, the market was 1.7525. What does that mean? It means that it's dropping. It's very simple, right? So when you're going and you're trying to maybe battle out a listing appointment with six other listing agents, are they having these conversations, or are they just going, yeah, we can list at that price? And I don't mean to poke fun at anyone, but this is serious business, guys. Like, it is what it is. Like, I have to be unemotional about these things. Look, I want the deal to work too, but numbers don't lie, right? And I can go a month out, I can go 2 months out, and I can just look at these numbers. When I say following in trends, and we can go Hillcrest, we can go wherever you guys have your property, we can go condominiums, we can go in that specific development in that condominium. So we can go, hey guys, all properties in Seabreeze development in 92103 is a lot different than just condominiums per se in 92103 or downtown. I can go Marina District. I can go Columbia Square. I can go Little Italy. I can go Gaslamp. I can go East Village. I can go Cortez Hill. Whatever you want to do. So you can go into that market area downtown. Then you can go, what is happening in my building? Because Ed knows lenders want two comps within the development and then whatever supported. Why do they want that? The majority of the comps, they want to know what's happening in the building. They don't really care about outside of that. Well, they want to know the trends too. But if the inside the building is selling a lot lower, or even say it a lot higher than everything else around it, why is that? Is it a newer development? They have better amenities. Like, what's happening, right? So that's just a quick tutorial in regards to following in trends. Like I said, 92103, you guys see it. This is Mission Hills, but look at the trends. Obviously, the trend is moving in a certain direction. You have to pay attention to that.
And in
You
all
have to.
honesty, the way that you're setting this up, right, and having this conversation with your clients, you can leverage this information by doing a little bit more due diligence up front because you know other listing agents are going in there to battle against them, right? And if they're not
Yeah.
doing their trend analysis and they're just looking at the 6 months out, well, guess what? When you're asking your clients, hey, and you're trying to come up with that price range, and you're telling them, hey, this is what it was in 6 months ago, but look, it's actually trending down, right? Over the past 4 months, 90 days, look at what 60 days out is doing. And you can show that downward trend. And you have someone that's trying to buy that listing at a $1.9 million and they never mentioned it. You can load your client's lips and tell them, hey, if you're going to be, interviewing other agents, make sure when they're telling you what the value of your home is, that they know and they're asking, right? Ask them if it's 6 months out. Ask them where they got that number. Ask them if they think that it's 2 months out or 3 months out. Because if someone doesn't do that and they're trying to buy that listing at 1.9 and you know that it's 175, right? I mean, wouldn't that help you in creating a little bit more um what's that word?
The idea is it's going to happen. The conversation is going to happen either
Gonna.
now or later. Right. And so it's like the more you get in front of it, the better. Like, that's all. Like, it's, I would have to say, stop being yes men and yes women. Like, you have to go in there confident, knowing like, no, like, this is what it is. Like, I think, the times of, like especially the way the market is trending now, there's a lot more inventory. Rates are doing funny things. We have the election. We have people like, everyone feels like they're the real estate professional. You're just there to just put a price down, right? Let's get away from that and get in there. And you know what? Maybe they're not the client for you. Maybe you're like, hey, no, 1.9. You're like, no, you know what? I'm just going to walk away from this listing. That's okay too. Like, set yourself up for success as well. So, but yeah, so that's just a quick thing that you guys can utilize. We all have MLS, but remember, pay attention to the median value, not the average. Okay. So Ed brought up something funny about trust appraisals, his own experience with his daughter's teacher friend, something like that.
Mhm.
So here's what trust appraisals are. I'll give you the definition. A trust appraisal, real estate appraisal that determines the fair market value of the property that's part of a living trust. Okay. So capital gain. So there's a couple of things you have to understand about this. Let's say, to Ed's example, or maybe I'll just show these things. So here's capital gains. Here, OP is original price. OP, original price. DOD, DOD is date of death, or step up in basis, or trust appraisal date, or whatever. SP is sales price. Okay. So let's say your client's grandparents bought their home, and Ed's example is 50,000. I'm giving you guys even simpler number at $100,000. They bought this in 1945 for $100,000. Okay, which is probably a lot of money. The date that those people passed away, okay, that property, that's where I come into play. So they go, "Oh, Sidney, we just inherited this property. It was in a trust. They passed away September. Oops, sorry, guys. They passed away September 1st, 2024. Can you come out and appraise my property?" No problem. So I go out there and I go, "Hey, as of the date of death, that property is worth $800,000. Okay. It's very important to know that your clients are not going to pay $700,000 of tax on that property. Okay. There's the future value in which that the IRS cares. So let's say you guys list that property for $900,000 and it sells at 900,000. They're going to pay approximately 15% on that 100,000. So the trust appraisals or step up, you'll hear step up in basis, date of death appraisal, trust appraisals. You're establishing a market value as of the date of death or date of passing, however you'd like to hear it, and then whatever future value that they sell that property for. So their CPA may get involved, their attorney may get involved and go, "Hey, we need to get this thing appraised." And they're only paying the difference between the future sale and what that date of death value is. So how you guys strategize, their tax basis versus what you sell it for and all those different things, as long as you put on the MLS trust sale, even if it's sold slightly under market, the appraiser can still utilize that sale and make the adjustment factor. Well, if it was put on the market, the market probably should have been sold at 950, but they wanted to lessen their tax load, so they're like, "Hey, let's just do a quick sale." Those things are all okay, and I can adjust those sales prices to 950 because that's what everything else is selling in similar condition. But they're going to pay about 15% on what we call capital gains because they're on the date of death value versus. That's why it's super important to everyone to have a trust in place, because if they didn't, then they would be liable for a lot more tax gain. And IRS wants to know, what was that property worth as of that date of death? What did you sell that for? And they'll figure out the taxes based on that. So that's what it comes to capital gains. That's how when you guys get involved with your clients as far as like, how are we going to strategize? What should we sell it for? And sometimes, if it needs a lot of work, people sell it the same, sometimes under to an investor. So that's a whole nother thing that you want to get together with your clients and make them understand what their liabilities are and things like that. So
if you did end up selling it for, let's say, 800,000, is it just they're paying no taxes?
They're paying there's no gain. There's no capital gain.
Okay, right. So awesome.
Any other questions before I move on? Here's like, oh no, this is something completely different. Oh, this is the same thing. This is just how I was showing
your 15% is addressing federal tax gain. So
correct.
Right.
Yeah, that's the average on capital gain is about 15%. So they'll be paying 15 grand of taxes for the difference of $100,000.
California's got their own taxes as well. So
what's that?
I said California's got its own taxes as well. It's like 13.5%.
Well, yeah, I mean, it can fluctuate. I just put it around 15%. But here's the thing. I do them where someone called me and they go, "Hey, man, we haven't done this in 15 years." So you're like, "Oh, okay." So I have to go back, to 2009. And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, the 2009, if you remember, the market was shit, right?" So that could be a problem too. So, but it is what it is, so sometimes, I go back 20 years and actually the market ballooned back. So the values are somewhat the same because that, in 05, 04, the market was hot. So, you're like, "Oh, it's kind of the same, but that's my problem to worry about. But you guys should understand, that what this all means to make them comfortable knowing like, "Hey, here's what this means," in essence, and they can go from there. Always talk to a CPA or your attorney. I'm not trying to advise your clients on anything. I'm just telling you what this step up in basis appraisal is all about, the trust appraisal. Here's in its simplest terms. So let's jump into multifamily. Um, so like typically, it's hard to get a show of hands. Maybe you can open up your mic. If I said you guys R1, what would you guys understand that to be? Just anyone voice
Say
out.
that
It doesn't
again.
matter.
I think it's
If I said R1, what does
multifamily
R1 mean
zoning.
to the group? Huh?
Single family or
Single
one
family. If I said
One.
R2 means what to you guys?
second unit.
Okay. R3. There's only one. I can't see it. Maybe there's only one person.
Multi, yeah.
R3, 3 units. R4, 4
ADU?
units, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you pull up a property record, that's exactly what they're going to show you. Oh, R1, people go 1 unit. And I see this marketed on the MLS all the time. And I'm like, oh man, this isn't good. So R1 does not mean 1 unit. R2 does not mean 2 unit. R3 does not mean 3 unit, and so on and so forth. In San Diego, the single family zoning is going to start with an RS, right? And I'll show you easily how easily you can find this. I'm just going to open up you guys can still see this, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna go to San Diego zoning. You're gonna go to here. Let me see here. You're gonna go to San Diego zoning. This is not the one I usually typically, but let's just go to zoning. Okay. You're gonna go here. You're gonna put in an address, and it's gonna spit out a zone. Okay. If I back up out of here, I go back here, you scroll up, you're going to see zoning use development regulations. Okay. And then you click residential. Okay. So here's all your residential zones, right? So residential, it's going to be RS. Most properties are going to be RS 1-7, which it requires a minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet. Okay. That's your RS. Then you have like your multifamily zones, you have your special use zones, and you have your multifamily zones. So that's what I want to talk to you guys today about is your multifamily zone. So multifamily is going to be residential multiple, and it's going to be a number 1-1, as you can see, 1-2, 1-3. So R2 means nothing. Single family is going to be RS, meaning residential single family, 1-1, 1-5, and it's going to have a minimum requirement. Great. For all residential zones, you can have an ADU and you can have a junior ADU pretty much on any residential zone. Fannie and Freddie, they only loan on one ADU, so it doesn't really matter. But just to let you guys know right off the top how you can market a property. I got a rebuttal. And I think it was this. It was a residential RM 2-5. Here's where I think it gets super important. I had a rebuttal from this realtor and who had a lot of choice words for me. I won't repeat them. Let's just say he was really pissed off and he said, I didn't know what I was doing. Okay. So I appraised this property, I think in Logan, maybe it was Grant Hill or Sherman or something like that. And it was a residential RM 2-5. Now, the subject property, the square footage for the subject property was 2,800 square feet. Okay. 2,800 square feet. Now, as you can see here, the RM 2-5 zoning says one dwelling unit for every 1,500 square feet. 1,500 times 2 is 3,000 square feet. So his property was what we call legal non-conforming. It's legal. The city's not going to make you tear down the second unit, but it no longer conformed with the new zoning. Okay, because they can't even have 2 units on that property. There's a house down the street that was also RM 2-5, but it was 6,000 square feet. What does that mean? They can have up to 4 units. 1,500 times 4 is 6,000. So the price that was reflective on the home down the street that I did not include, which he was like, the appraiser didn't include the home on the same street. Yeah, because the lot size was larger and they can have 4 units and the price reflected that. You can't even build legally 2 units on your property, right? So you can't have more than the 2 units that you have. So when you market these properties, you have to take the time to go into the zoning. Again, put in your property address. It's going to spit out a zone. And, like anyone have a property that they want to just throw in right now in San Diego? Like anything.
4820 Barrel Way.
Say it again.
4820 Barrel Way.
Barrel like that.
Beryl.
Barrel.
Oh, barrel like in Encinitas. It's like
Beryl.
that. I'm sorry.
Beryl.
Sorry, guys.
Way.
Okay, barrel. So let's see what barrel gives us. Boom. You see how it just puts that up? So simple. Now this is going to be an RS zone for sure, I think. Let's see. Sorry, I have so many screens up right now. See how it has like RM 3-7 right here in this brown section. So if I go to barrel on the left side, you'll see all of this information. Let's see, community plan. Right here. See zoning designation, RS 1-7. You guys see that?
Yep.
Yes? No? Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I can't see you guys, so I don't just open up your mic.
Okay.
So right here it says base zone zoning RS 1-7, meaning this property is this a minimum lot requirement of 5,000 square feet. Now, if I go into the same, what is this, 4820?
Yeah.
Right, 4820. So if I go into my search here, 4820 barrel.
Yeah, and the lot's like 5,200 something.
We'll just go straight here, 5230. So it's properly zoned. Okay, we'll just leave it at that. So, but yeah, they can have an ADU here if they want to. It looks like, I mean, some of those properties in Barrel have an alley behind them and all that kind of stuff. So that's how you'd find zoning on that. It's an RS 1-7. So, you know, you wouldn't say R1, you'd go RS 1-7, minimum 5,000 square feet, and market it however you want. So we can, if there was another multifamily, we can do just the same. So really important to understand this, so when if you're representing a buyer and they go, oh, R3, they can have 3 units. And you're like, let me look up this zoning. And you go, actually, how much are you guys adding to have another 3rd unit? Oh, we added a valuation about 150,000. Perfect. So glad you said that, because actually the zoning on this maxes out. It's a 4,000 square foot lot. So it maxes out at actually 2 units. So yeah, we'd love to buy this, but we're going to take that $150,000 valuation that you placed on that 3rd unit because we can't have one. And we'd love to buy it at this price. It's a mic drop, right? So when people are blowing smoke and they go, oh yeah, you can have 3 units. Yeah. Okay, cool. What was the valuation? How much you guys adding, just have that candid conversation, go in there, check the zone and go, no, actually you can't. Right. Or maybe they're saying it's an RM 3-7 and they're saying, yeah, you can have 3 units. You're like, oh my God, this is a 7,000 square foot lot. Yeah, let's buy it. Because you can have up to 7. Yes, there's an FAR and all that kind of stuff, but there's setbacks, but you can add a lot of units. You're informing your clients, look, they don't even know what they have here. You can have up to 7 units, meaning it could be in a complete community. Like, I think this is a great investment. You're already buying a multifamily. We can add X amount of additional units. And here's what your return on investment is going to be, or keep it for 2 years. So you avoid that capital gain on that and then resell it into the market to someone else or a developer that's going to develop it. And you're going to make X amount of dollars. Now you're like a ninja, right? Like now you're informing your clients. Now you're managing their portfolio. Now they're like, oh my God, I love Christine. Oh my God, I love Sam. I don't even know whose names are on here. I'm just saying, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. I'm always going to use them to buy my properties because you're showing value, because you're understanding simplicities of zoning that a lot of people just don't take the time. The extra, what did that take us? Like literally 2 minutes to look up zoning. You put up the property. Oh, zoning. What does that mean? Okay, well, I don't know what the RM thing. Okay, let me go in here. Oh, RM 2-4. Okay, a maximum density of 1 dwelling unit for every 1,750 square feet. We all have calculators if you don't like math. You just put in the 1,750. What's the square footage of that lot? Oh, it's 3,500. Oh, okay. How many units can I have? Perfect. You just move on. Right.
Sidney, since you touched on FAR ratios, there's probably several people on here that don't understand them and don't know what they are. Is there an easy way to find them somewhere?
What are you talking about?
A FAR?
Oh, FAR?
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll have them in here. Let's see. If you don't understand it, just call the city. Hey, here's my property. I'm looking to build. What can I do? What are my, like right here, like brush management? They'll have setbacks in here.
Yep.
You just got to do some research, to be honest.
Okay.
Your FAR is your floor area ratio, meaning how much can you cover on that lot? How much area can you cover with buildings on that lot? Sometimes in San Diego, a lot of times they'll let you exceed the FAR by a certain percentage. You just have to understand that and like, hey, what's the FAR on this property? I'm trying to see if they have it on this, but you could just call the city like, hey, I have this property located at 4820 Barrel. Just wanting to understand the FAR on that. My client is looking to maybe add a unit or two. What does that mean? And they'll explain it to you. So here's what I mean by zoning implications when it comes to adjustment factors. I try to make this very simple. If my subject was RM3-7 with a lot size of 6,000 square feet, remember RM3-7, you can have one unit for every 1,000 square feet of lot. Here's how I make adjustment factors for that. Okay. If my comp one could be within a mile, right? But it's RM2-5, 6,000 square feet, they can only have a max of 4 units. Same with comp two. Max of 3 units. RM3-7 here, they can have 4 units. This one can have 5 units. How would I make the adjustment factors between that? I think I just made it simple, like $25,000 or $50,000 per additional lot or something like that. But you just have to understand outside of square footage, outside of amenities, outside of condition, how does the zoning play a part in the adjustment factors? How does it play a part? What I'm always trying to figure out is solving for X. Like, what am I missing here? Why did this property sell way more than this other one? Was it when it comes to residential, when it comes to multifamily, did zoning play a part? Single family, not so much, because it's single family. You can have a house, you can have an ADU, and like then you get into street to alley lots, corner lots, egress, regress, those kind of things are something that I always factor in as well, because I know people are always looking to develop their properties when it comes to multifamily. Oh, and AR, the special thing that we just love so much, which isn't really, and I don't think it's anything different. I don't think anything has changed unless I guess you didn't have conversations about your commissions to your clients before or made clear. Look, it was a Missouri thing that became a national thing, but it's always been a conversation. Commissions have always been negotiable. We all know that, but now you have to make it very crystal clear. So for the appraiser, we've already had to analyze that. We already analyzed the purchase contract, right? We want to know, are there concessions? What's going on here? What I think is always been assumed is that the commissions have been built into the sales price. So we already make adjustments for concessions. We look at the market as a whole, and we go, okay, what is the overall concession in this market? It could be the median concession in the market could be $5,000, could be $25,000, and we make adjustments on the appraisal report based on concessions. We adjust for inconsistencies. So what's interesting is what we have to factor in now, because the commission may or may not be granted, how that will have an effect on the appraised value. And here's kind of an example of what I'm talking about. So we have $1 million property, commission 6%, 3%, 3% to either side, 3.5% to one side, 2.5% to one side. Who cares, right? But 6% was the agreed upon commission. So that means your clients are paying $60,000 in fees. So they're going to net. What does every seller care about? The net sheet. What am I going to net here at the end of the day, right? Okay, well, you're going to net $940,000 after you pay out all your commissions. Okay, great. The question is, would the seller or the selling agent say, hey, you can net the same if we don't give commissions on the other side, which is a really nasty thing to do, right? But at the end of the day, we're talking about what is the sellers, what do they care about? Their net. So here's an example of if there was only 3% that was provided, the agent is getting some damn near the same, and the selling agent is getting the same. So because it's built in, what makes it a bit difficult for the appraiser is to know, like, well, especially we always go back in time, right? So I'm going always back for sales. So if I went back to April for a comp, they got, typically you would say, okay, they got 6% because the commission was posted there. Now you guys have to post the commissions, I believe, after the sale. There's a slot in the MLS that allows you to post it in the MLS after the sale. But what I'm seeing is a lot of the times the commissions are posted in the concessions, and I'll kind of pull up any property. Just let me see here. Let's go to the most recent here in Mission Hills. What I'm seeing is like they're posted in the concessions, because now the concessions are a lot. And they weren't always like that. So right here, it says like concessions, $31,837 for concessions. So if I take the sales price, I'm just going to do this right now. I haven't done this prior, guys. So this is like real time. If it, if it blows up in my face, fine. I just want to understand what that number means. What does $31,000 mean? So if I take the sales price of 1.415, right, and I multiply that by 3%, so that's 42,000. So 1.145 times 0.025. Okay, so they probably got on a commission of this, let's say, they probably got somewhere around 2.5% if they posted that to the concessions here. Okay, so the 2.5% is right around $25,000, $35,000. 2% was around 28. So there was something going on within the concessions that I'm sure came out of this fee for the agent. Now, I don't know if that particularly is now that's something that I have to pay attention to. If I go to this next property, let's say the concessions here are, it's not posted. So I'd have to call the agent. Anything that's not posted, Sidney has to call the agent and have the conversation. Like, hey, did you offer concessions on this property? Oh, you didn't. Oh, okay. What was the fees? What was the percentage that you gave? So it's more work for the appraiser to call and go, hey, right here, concessions, 30,000. Okay. So if I take that again, I can assume and go, well, the concessions, was that a part of, I don't know what that is. Oh, my son left his phone. Give me 1 second. He left his phone.
That's funny.
I don't know, like my kids have cell phones, but it's like, who's calling my son when everyone's in school and it's 10 o'clock? Like, anyway, and he should have his phone. But anyway, so yeah, I have to look at the concessions. Like, is this the commission? Is this because it needed flooring? Like, what's the concession? So I have to read the supplemental page, but there should be a slot for you guys to put in your commissions that you guys ended up giving. I know you can't post it and market it on the MLS. You can do it on your social media, but you can put it into MLS so that the appraiser has that information. Or I have to call this agent and go, hey, Kiki, like, what was the concession? What was the commission that you guys gave? So I can factor this in. Like, was it only 4%? Okay, well then 4% is built into the sales price. The concessions are built in. So how do I make adjustments for a comp that I looked at 4 months ago that had a 6% commission? So now as the appraiser, I have to factor in the concession amounts or the commission amounts and go, okay, well, this was only 4%. That was that sales price. This was at 3.5%. That was that sales price. This was at 6%. That was that sales price. And then make those adjustment factors on my report to reflect that if it sold at 6%, like the other ones did, here's what that would actually look like, the numbers look like. That makes sense. So it's just, like what I have to kind of look into every time now I do a purchase, because it's not posted. It's no longer can be assumed that, oh yeah, it was a 5% deal, a 6% deal, because that used to be posted. I can see that. Okay, commissions at this. Okay, great. You know, and we're looking at, again, the cluster of sales and outliers. If it's an outlier, then that means, you know, if I have a whole bunch of properties at 1.5, 1.51, 1.505, and then I have like a 1.8, and then I have like a 1.3, I'm like, whoa, what's going on with the 1.3 and the 1.8? What's going on there? Oh, well, we gave this, you know, we gave, you know, maybe it was more commissions, or, you know, like there's concessions and credits, you know. So I know, you know, Ed has to deal with credits and concessions. Those are two different things, right? Yeah, because VA can only accept one or the other. And, you know, people will give a credit because they want the sales price to be at a certain thing, but they give the kickback at the end. So it's just making our business a little bit more convoluted, but we all have to deal with it. So it's just what it is.
Bottom line is go in there and enter your concession or your commissions at the end of the day to make everybody else's life easier going forward.
And right now,
Exactly.
the MLS is only allowing for one entry for concessions, commissions. Like it's not broken up the way, because I mean, you guys used to look and go, oh, they were offering a 2.5 BBC. Now it's just concessions, yes or no, dollar amount, and if the agent chooses to put in what it was for, but it doesn't break down broker commission, credits for repairs, or credits for closing costs. It doesn't.
Has anyone had a closing in the last 2 months? And how did you record that on the MLS? Did you put it as did you put the BBC for the buying agent as a concession? Well, okay, let me ask you this. Would you do that? Would you put it as a concession?
Yes.
Agents, anyone? Yeah, is that kind of
when
where
when I put any sort of a discount, if there was any money credited back to the buyer, I'd say exactly what the dollar amount was and what it was for, whether it
I
was
love
closing
that.
costs, slab repair, whatever it is. So in this
Yeah,
case, we would have
exactly.
to do the same thing, 2.5 towards buyer broker commission. But not all agents
Okay.
going to break it down for you.
I know, and it makes my job a lot harder, I'm telling you, because then I got to call you and you're like, I'm like, not, it's not, like, I need to know this stuff. Like, I mean, if you're going to farm this area, it's going to mess up either your next sale because I have to adjust low. I have to, you know, like, I don't want to assume things, you know? So yeah, I mean, I like that. I like people who are thorough because it's like, it just removes the questions out of anything. We can all move on. You know, I don't really want to spend my day calling agents, but I have to. Like, hey, like, what's going on here? Like, there's nothing clear. There's nothing on MLS that kind of tells me, and I'm looking at the agent view, not what a buyer would look at when you, I guess, you know, put a drip for your clients. You know, they're looking at two different screens. You know, you have the client preferred where they only have what they need, and then there's the other side where we all need that information, right? Between, you know, agent, appraiser, lender, like we're all looking at the same stuff. So yeah, I would really love if everybody can get on a consensus on like, this is how we're going to kind of go forward moving on, you know. But I'm gonna, if you guys have more questions, please, you know, you have about 30 seconds. I'm just kidding. Here's a little bit. I do lender work, but I don't, you know, like, I mean, of course I do refi purchases, but the majority of what I do is like pre-list prior to going to market. ADUs, I do a lot with ADUs. Price adjustments, I'm getting hired a lot for that because things are sitting on the market. So fine. Trust, divorce, investments, ARVs. You guys work with investors looking at fix and flips, pro formas. I have immigration here. When I say immigration, not like, it's more so like someone, maybe your client is marrying someone from a different country and they have to show assets, right? So they have to get their homes appraised and things of that nature. So, you know, guys, I'm here to be a resource to everyone. You know, like I've been working with Ed for about 9 years now. This is the whole purpose of these Monday meetings, just to get your minds a little bit more expansive. Maybe, hopefully, I touch on something that you didn't know. You know, I can't stress enough. I think setting expectation is probably, you know, the most important thing for everyone. Nerding out a little bit, you know, to separate yourself from the pack. Hopefully the zoning was something that was informative to everyone in regards to what I would look at as far as the rebuttals and things of that nature. Remember, what is your angle on the rebuttal? guidelines 20%, up to a mile, up to 6 months, but we kind of want to stay within 60 days, right? We showed why just in Mission Hills, the trends. I mean, 6 months out, 1.9, 3 months out, 1.775. Do the math. We can go 30 days out and look at what that trend is. We can go, where are you in Mission Hills? Are you West Mission Hills, North Mission Hills? Are you within an historic district? Are you Burlingame in South Park? Are you, you see how it is? There's 92102, but there's Burlingame. There's 92102, there's Golden Hill. Like, stay within that subdivision, really break down that market. Are you in a condo? What's happening with condos in the market area? What's happening in your development? So there's so many things that go on to that, but we live such an amazing life. We get paid awesome money for what we do. And you know what? It's going to take a little bit more effort for you to lock in your deal, to lock in that listing. But like, show your value, make that the norm. This is just how you operate so that you're just a real estate ninja, and these things forward, backwards. You guys have any questions, like reach out to me, like QR code.
I do actually have a couple of questions in there.
What's that?
I did have a couple of questions in there. Does a trust appraisal, or this type of appraisal, I think we were talking about trusts, consideration also work the same as a probate instead of a trust?
Yeah, but the thing is, the probate, you get the probate referee, and it's when you come out. It's not necessarily the probate is going to want to know values as well, but typically they're not going to go. They may not go back to the date of death. They may want multiple values. Hey, Sidney, what is it worth at that date of death? What is it worth now? But trust appraisals locks it in because you have a trust, so that's you're guarding yourself from the step up. That's why people get trust appraisals, because they're saying, hey, this is going to get inherited. Like my properties that I have, I have a trust on all of them because it's getting jumped up to my kids. So I don't want them to just worry about, and if it's a probate, then the state hires someone to manage the asset and they drain that property because everyone's got to get paid. So probate is a little bit different than a trust, because probate, they only get the appraisal once it probates at the end of its term, and they want to know, what is this asset worth? And then they can disperse the funds from there. So it's a lot different from probate than trust. Those are two different things.
Amy, I can get you a copy of that zoning information, not a problem. And then other question, does solar and pools add
zoning? Go to San Diego, San Diego.gov/development. So again, I'll just open up a new window, just go to San Diego and just put San Diego zoning. And then it'll pop up City of San Diego. You can go to the first one. Okay. You go to zoning, this green tab, zoning. There's two things. You can go here where it shows the map, right? You put in your zoning, your property address, zoning and parcel information. And then if you want to know like what that means, you go to zoning and development regulations. And that's going to show you commercial, industrial, residential. Of course, we're always dealing mostly in residential zones. Then it'll give you the purpose of the zone. What does the zoning means? RS is single unit. So you have all your, this is important for me for legal non-conforming, but again, there may be something different for your zoning, but typically all single families can have ADUs. So there's no real benefit to that. And then you get into your RM, residential multiple unit zones, RM 1.1, 1.2, until it goes, sometimes you get these RM 4-10s where you can have one dwelling for every 400 square feet. This is super high density. And then that's what that is. So hopefully just put in San Diego zoning and then you guys can go from there.
Very helpful.
Was there another question, Ed?
No, that was it, man. Oh yeah. Does solar and pool add value?
Yes. Solar, if owned as value, solar as leased does not add value. Obviously there is a value, but because lenders like Ed, they don't give value for lease solar. Obviously we just haven't gotten there yet. We will get there. We haven't gotten there yet. If it's owned, there is. You guys can go to PV. What is it? PV value or PV-value.com. Let me see. The I think it's this one, PV value. So right here, pvvalue.com. You quickly register, okay, put in your information. Once you register, it's going to ask you 4 major questions, like pretty much like what is the size of the system, the warranty, the size of the inverter, and the warranty is going to spit out a value. So that's a great way to go, oh, you have solar, Mr. Smith. Awesome. Hey, let's just see what that's worth. Or you have that ready for them. Hey, I found out what your solar system is worth. But then appraisers also use what we call paired sales analysis. So even if the PV value says, yeah, your system's worth 20 grand, but based on comp analysis, I'm like, oh, actually solar's worth 25, we're going with 25. I don't care what this says. On the flip side, this says 20 grand, but based on, paired sales, meaning comps, I go, oh, exactly. The solar's only actually worth 15,000. We're going 15,000. So this is kind of like a Zillow, where it gives you just an idea of what the solar would be worth. It's a great tool to use. Play with it. And then pools as well. Like guys, during COVID, I spent about 150 grand on a sick ass pool. But I, pool, backyard, the whole nines. But I know when I get my home appraised, if I get it appraised, like the appraiser is going to give me like $50,000 value for that pool. They're not going to give you price per price on that pool. So when you're looking at pool value for pool, again, it's based on comps, right? So if you're inland, you probably get a little bit more value on a pool than you are if you're on the coast, because you're in the coast and it's not as hot, but maybe your market does have that. So you have to find cluster of homes with pools, cluster without, and showing like, well, what's the, you have to extrapolate that value for a pool. You can do it yourself. You can hire me to do it. Doesn't matter. But that's how, whether it's pool, location, view, amenities, tennis courts, all this kind of stuff, they all have a certain level of contributory value. I just don't know. There's no number like, hey, Sidney, what's the value of a pool? I don't know. It could be 20 grand to 150 grand.
Yeah, you got to look it up. See what the comps are like, right?
Yeah, the comps dictate everything.
Yep. True story. Dude, thank you so much for your time. I'm sorry we went over a little bit. I really appreciate you coming out here on a Monday morning and helping us and teaching us and making us that much smarter.
You guys are welcome. Hopefully everyone got something from that.
Absolutely. Every time, man.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sidney. Hey, Friday, don't forget, it's his daughter's birthday.
I know. Send
them gift cards.
Thank you.
She turns 8. I'm so
Sidney.
excited.
We'll see you guys soon. Thanks, Sidney.
See ya.